Hey everybody, it's GraysonDel and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be tackling the second book in the Red Rising series called The Golden Sun. And I'm telling you, this book felt a little bit more like a mind game of challenging and outsmarting your enemy. I felt like Pierce Brown really did a good job of putting you in the mind of Darrow. And then on top of that, let's not forget the fact that this one is where his secret is finally getting out there. People are starting to know who Darrow is, who he truly is. I honestly can't talk about the Golden Sun too much without spoiling the series, so I'm just gonna go right into it and put a spoiler warning down below here, so you know that me talking about this book in general is just a spoiler waiting to happen. So you got 2 seconds to click away. All right, we're in the spoiler section. So the Golden Sun is interesting. We pick up a few months after the first book, and Darrow's fleet commander for a ship that he's been in charge of, where he's fighting against Cassius's brother. Not gonna get too much into the details about that, but Cassius has an older brother. He's a demon, where in the first book, Julius or Julian was essentially, I don't know, in some ways I would say he was a little bit more soft. He was a more gentle guy, likable guy. You really did like Julian, and you feel bad for Julian's situation. But what was Darrow supposed to do, right? It was either die or survive. And obviously, I don't know about you, but even I would have killed Julian if I had no choice, right? That's just the way it is. So it's one of those things where Darrow became a lifelong enemy to the Bolognas, essentially. And it's kind of stressful, right? It's one of those things where Cassius never gets over the fact that Darrow had to kill his brother. But Darrow has a few secrets under his belt, you know what I mean? He spent a few months, I would say, but they don't show you that, right? They're not telling you that. He spent months working with Lorne, or I think Arrow. I'll put it down below. But Lorne is like this amazing knight. He was essentially the right hand to the Empress of the society, and he served and did his best. He even went all the way to retirement. So Lorne is an amazing fighter, and he's a knight, so he knows how to fight. And behind closed doors, he's been teaching Darrow how to defeat people and showing them how to use the brain and all that stuff. So Lorne was a really good character in this book. Honestly, I liked Lorne a lot. I did feel like he was stubborn, but he definitely went against the notion that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I loved that there was this clash between Darrow and Lorne. Tactus was a really sad character. It actually hurt my feelings a little bit when I was reading this book, where I genuinely felt for Tactus. He chose what he believed was the best option to stay alive and be relevant. He didn't want to be distanced. This book also really tackled the whole idea behind telling the truth. I don't know about you, but when I read the first book and got into the second book, it felt like Darrow obviously was in a shell, right? He's not going to talk about everything. He's not going to get into the details about what he feels or how he's not going to tell people the truth, right? So I felt like this book really tackled that whole breaking out of the shell, admitting that he is a red, he's not a true gold, which is the thing, right? But in some weird way, he made people feel distanced, and that was the thing with Tactus. Felt distanced. He felt like he was in the shadow. Darrow ends up going down this whole rabbit hole, cutting Cassius's hand because he knows how to fight, so he cut off his hand. Cassius lost his good hand. Felt like a Game of Thrones moment right there. I was like, oh, I could see where they're going with this. Very Jaime Lannister situation, getting the hand cut off but keeping him alive. And then to find out that House Augustus, which is essentially where Darrow has been to try to start this Red Rising revolt, and just like trying to, it's interesting because in some weird way Darrow is destroying the society, but from within it becomes this gigantic gold civil war. The golds are all fighting each other, and every other color is forced to intervene. And dude, I'll tell you, this book was, it tackles so much. You got Fitchner, right? Fitchner becomes a Rage Knight, which is insane how he won it. And he beat Jupiter for it. Jupiter was one of the proctors in the first book. And I still don't understand how Fitchner did it, but the reveal is crazy. The fact that Fitchner he's Ares, you know what I mean? So this whole time, a Gold was the bad guy who was starting this whole war, essentially. Severo knew this whole time about Darrow, and he knew about his father. And like, Jesus, in some way, Darrow and Severo are more related than you probably know, which is kind of crazy. I don't even want to get into the weeds of it, but I'm in the spoiler section, so be ready for this one. But Severo is half gold, half red, I guess. And Fitchner fell in love with a red when he was just a wee little gold, minding his own business. And the red ended up having some implants that allowed her to give birth to golds. So she gave birth to Severo, and Severo is half gold, half red. And essentially the society found out about her, and behind Fitchner's back, they killed her or disposed of her. And it was supposed to just be a normal thing. I don't know exactly how Severo got away with the situation, or how Fitchner got away with the situation, because obviously for them to euthanize her for giving birth to Severo, there's some gray area there that could definitely use a little bit more explaining. I can't wait for Severo to break into that. Maybe he will in much later books, because we only get to see it from Fitchner's side. We don't get to see it really from Severo's side. So I really want to know more about what Severo felt about the situation and how much he actually knows about the situation. I'll tell you though, Augustus dying was pretty freaking wild to me. I didn't think that he was gonna get killed by his own son. That was pretty rough. There was this one part of the book which had me shaking. Was like, I genuinely wanted to cry a little bit, because I felt bad for Mustang. I genuinely did feel bad for Mustang. She was conflicted because she knows what Darrow's objective is when Darrow wanted her to be by his side. Mustang is a good gold, I guess you can call it, right? Mustang believes in dealing with things politically and correct, but obviously she knows what Darrow's goals were, because Darrow told her the truth. One of my favorite characters that was introduced in this book, I'm gonna have to say right away, Ragnar. This guy is a fucking G, dude. And every time I think about Ragnar, I'm thinking like Drax the Destroyer. I can't look at this guy and think anyone other than Drax the Destroyer. In my mind, when I'm visualizing Ragnar, I'm giving him this weird ponytail, white hair, scars all over his body. So instead of Drax having all that red on his body, imagine scars all over the body. And it's kind of interesting because obsidians are essentially like cavemen. They've been tormented essentially to serve the golds and look at golds as gods. And Ragnar is one of those special ones where his whole life he's known nothing but servitude, and essentially you become scarred, meaning that you have to do everything that's whoever you, or I think he's called a stain. He's looked at as a dog essentially, but Darrow gives him his own identity. Darrow breaks him out of that mindset where it's to serve, and gives him the ability to make his own choice. And honestly, I feel like Ragnar is having a great story arc. Ragnar, there's a whole scene. Honestly, there could be a whole spin-off about Ragnar and himself, because honestly, I like the character so much. And he's kind of invisible, but he's like big, so it almost feels like that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's just eating the whatever the snack he's eating. He's just in the corner. He's like, I'm invisible. That's literally what it feels like. It just feels like, and he's just sitting there. He's hulking. He's like a shadow. He's not really invisible, but sometimes he can be. He's always lurking. And I love Ragnar. I think he's kind of a funny character. He's serious and he's funny, which I really enjoy about that. I think Pierce Brown did a really good job. Like I said, Lorne Fitchner, unfortunately Fitchner does pass away. This is a really sad situation. Gets his neck cut off. I don't think Severo knows yet, so I'm in some way it was sad to see that Fitchner died, because Fitchner really was pseudo father for Darrow and Severo. So in some weird way, I felt like Fitchner really did care about Darrow, not only because Darrow was the product that was going to start this revolution, but because Darrow was the guy who was supposed to push this thing. And then Severo and Darrow grew really close together. It's just a product of the situation. So it's one of those things where it's sad that Fitchner dies. When Lorne died at the very end, that was really heartbreaking. They killed him, and I'm assuming they killed his grandchildren. It's so heartbreaking. I had to take a moment at the end of the book, because the way this book ends, it's a grand betrayal. It's sad. I think Victra is nearly dead at the end of this one. She may have actually died. I don't know. She gets essentially shot by her own sister. This one ally, essentially, Darrow had the whole time that he was sheltered from and didn't really talk to him too much. And you feel almost bad for him. But at the end, dude, he betrays Darrow so seriously. Because obviously, I think everybody knew who Darrow was. They know that he's a red now. They're not looking at Darrow as a gold. He fell beneath his standard. Augustus ends up dying from the Jackal. The Jackal ends up killing his own father, shooting him in the head. The Golden Sun was definitely one of those books at the very end where I felt like so much shit was happening that it started stressing me out. And I'm really excited to see what happens with Morning Star. Thank you so much for watching the review. I'm gonna put a few of my thoughts in a little post on Instagram, so please do check out my Instagram, check out my Twitter, GraysonDel E. Put an E at the end of that. I'll put it down at the bottom. And then on Twitch, I do stream from time to time. If you want me to stream, please don't be afraid to leave a comment down below. I have been kind of slacking on the streaming aspect, but I have been putting out YouTube videos whenever I can. Thank you so much. Your likes, your follows, and your support go a very long way into allowing me to do this as a career. I would rather be talking about this stuff. I have another review coming out. I have the Mangered Tea Pros. I want to put these up close for you so you can get a look at those. These are very beautiful IAMs. So be ready for a IAM review video for the Mangered Tea Pros coming out soon. I've been using them for about almost 3 weeks now, so I got a good review. Unfortunately, no unboxing. I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about the sound quality. I love it. And thank you so much. Take it easy. Bye.